I'm Jackson. I have zero experience with carpentry.
I studied at a school for historic preservation in Boston and learned about how things were built, 250 years ago.
There's a long way to go. I'm nowhere near the top. Not that I thought I was, but there's so much more to do out there.
Welcome back to the Passion for Craft podcast. Back again answering your questions. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the Discord or on the Patreon. The best places to go to ask these questions, to be able to get involved, stay a part of the conversation. But Richard, take us away again. More questions.
Yeah, we're continuing on from the last episode. We're going to get into these again because we just, ran out of time last time. So the first one is from Jay Brewer. It says, loving the podcast, you guys. You are hitting a perfect balance of craftsman interest and historic homeowner interest. Ever thought of an Angie's List of builders? He said, quote unquote, Angie's List of builders. So I guess like a network of builders and craftsmen with bona fides you've met in various states that have a passion, so these folks can be easier to find. The waiting list for you guys like Brent or Reisinger and trying to get them to travel is hard. If we could find a state, regional, local craftsman. So he's saying like a network, like you're here in, New Jersey or whatever. I need to find like a bona fide builder, What do you think? Any thoughts on that? How that might work out? It's a pretty good idea.
It's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea too.
They don't want to make a lot of money because that.
I know it's hard to administer because it's almost a separate business. There was a lady who wrote a book called The Not So Big House, Sarah Zuzanka, and she tried to put together a list of builders and or architects who could, who understood that. I don't remember how it worked. I don't remember. I shouldn't say. I don't remember whether it was successful because it was, it's almost its own business that you'd have to minister. And what would we go visit every builder in these other states and kind of verify them?
Go ahead, name every builder.
Yeah,
I mean, it's how it goes.
So it's. I think it's a great idea. I don't know how you do it.
Implement it. Yeah.
But it is a good idea, and it's encouraging that he would even suggest that. Right? It means that we are hitting a chord. Right?
Yeah. So we just need some brainchild to implement it.
Yeah, I think the core problem with that is it's one or the other in my mind, and maybe I'm thinking about this all wrong, but. You either can build great things or you can find people who build great things. But equivalently, your job changes from being a craftsman to being a talent scout if you're going to run a business like that. And I mean, it would take someone like you who had a passion for that to go and explore, like do the Brent Hole Roadshow and go find craftsmen.
Yeah. You know what might be an easier way to do it? Or another way to do it is to have a university where you are, they have to come to the university, and then you can
Send them out.
They could be, I went to the Passion for Craft University, and I'm knowledgeable about these things now. I'm working on becoming, and they put that maybe there's a little tag they have. Been to Passion for Craft University.
It's like a compass in a tree.
PCU instead of TCU. I can finally put a sticker on my car. No.
Well, I mean, but yes, 100%.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about, we've talked about this before, but the standardization, it gets me really excited what Dan's doing, like having a standardized system. I think it gets a lot of people excited because just having a quantifier in an art field is something that's very exciting because there's not a lot that can say like, am I good enough? Am I, what puts you there? But it would take something like that. It would take implementing that system and then into a nationwide thing. But then, again, you get into the problem of verification where, and I know we're not trying to swoop and poop here, but the biggest problem is verification, right? Yeah. Because then you just have to make sure that everyone who you are saying is valid on this list is not just going, no, yeah, I can fit out a room in molding in 5 minutes, and I'm a level 9 craftsman. It's like, nah, you're not.
By the way, your swoop and poop comment, which is a reference to an older episode.
True.
someone said in the Discord recently that said we need to get another shirt. Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
Yeah,
it was in the Patreon. Yeah.
So the one comment shirt was buildmanship, right?
Yeah,
we need that one, and this one, next one was I don't speak Roman.
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember saying it.
Those are good.
Yeah, yeah.
And swoop and poop would be the third shirt.
Don't swoop and poop. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not. I understand his sentiment. I would be curious to know what the market demand for that would be, whether it'd be high or not. But I think the thing I get excited about is what we're trying to do is constant fight, is a constant battle. It requires constant education, and this is just another step. Hey, come to this university. We're going to talk through.
And you have a test at the end.
Yeah.
You got to pass and get credentials, and then you're verified.
So this is awesome. I'm swooping and pooping even more here. I guess I'm not providing the problem is swooping and pooping is providing feedback without providing a solution to that feedback. But the other problem that you run into is do homeowners care about this list? Do builders care about this? Like who cares?
That's exactly my market question. Is there, would there be even demand for this?
Well, I think there would be demand on a builder side, and it would just take a lot of, hey, I am, with AKC, you're certified, your dogs are certified in a certain way. Mm-hmm. It would just take having the certification first and then saying, hey, these are all these houses that were built by
I would also be curious. I'm not sure I agree with you. I don't think there'd be demand from the builder side. I think there'd be demand from the homeowner side.
You think there would be demand from the homeowner side? But it takes I'm saying on the front end, it takes the know-how of like, why as a homeowner do I care that they're Passion for Craft certified?
I think I get a ton of comments from people on my YouTube page frustrated by builders and frustrated by the lack of quality design that they want. If they had a place where they knew that there was builders that actually spoke this language, that actually understood this stuff, they would just be falling over themselves. So,
well, I'm on the opposite camp. I think builders would love to have a certification under their belt would work to get it.
And that's why I'm questioning. I'm curious whether there'd be more.
Yeah, I think it brings up a point from your interview episode where you talked about there was a job board at the North Bennett Street, and he'd say, call them, hey, I'm from North Bennett Street. Well, come on, come. I think it would be like that. The homeowners are like, oh, you're Passion for Craft University? Come on, let's do this. Yeah. I know you aren't going to screw this up.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like I think there's demand on the builder side. You think there's demand on homeowner side? Do you think there's?
I think it's more on the homeowner side.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well.
Yeah, I would think.
Start it up.
We've dealt with a lot of homeowners who are frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of builders like, I don't need that. My house is sell, right? So.
Yeah, because population, not because of your designs. No.
That's what I would say.
You got to have a place to live. All right, this is still Jay Brewer. He's put out a couple questions here,
Hit us,
which
Jay.
is great. As prices climb and climb, I would love to hear general thoughts on barn dominiums. Are they cost-effective, basic steel structures that you can still detail and design to high quality and detail spec within? Or are these things crap from all angles and a rough storm will blow them apart like a mobile home? Barn dominiums. He wants to know our thoughts. Well, I think you're doing the barn-do of all barn-dos out there, and we're helping you with that.
Yeah.
I love barn. Just before.
Why do you like them?
Before it gets shot down. Okay. I love them. I think they're so cool. This is just purely from like, if I knew nothing about architecture, if I knew nothing about any like solid building. Oh man.
Wait. Let's define barn-do. Okay, barn dominium.
Yeah.
Is it a steel structure with the metal cladding? That's a big barn. Is that a barn dominium in your mind?
All I know is there's this one family that I know that built one, and inside of it, I don't know the specifics of the materials that they used or whatever, but it is a giant, looks like some sort of metal siding on the outside. They've got all their ATVs, four-wheelers, cars, minivans.
That's a cool barn dominium.
Inside the bottom floor.
Wait.
And then they go to the top floor, and then they've got a house that's been completely framed, and then they've got drywall set in. So it looks, you don't have the metal frame look and feel, but it was very cool because, they step outside of their normal looking house into, a thing. And they did like a farmhouse modern kind of style in their interior. And then, so it was cool. I thought it looked cool.
No, I think the reason I said no is because I heard both of you guys go, oh, yeah, after we had described the four-wheelers and the other toys inside the basement.
Yeah.
You guys were not talking about the architecture. You're talking about the toys and the function
I think of the
that
experience.
thing. You're not talking about the styling.
Hey, there's something okay, I visited this one. It was really cool.
They had a game room inside, though.
It was awesome. Yeah, they did have a game room, and let me just explain. You walk into this room. There's a giant screen, okay, and there is a wall full of guns, okay, and so you've got a pistol, a shotgun, an AR, and you can shoot the screen, and it's like a video game that you're playing. It was crazy. Yeah, but you're right. It was all the toys. It's so cool. This guy's place, he had a plane, and just to put this guy's financial situation into perspective. The other part of this was his airplane hangar. But it was very fun. It was very cool. They had a room with a wall full of candy. It was great.
So you've mentioned planes, candy, guns, nothing about the architecture. No, I'm joking.
You're right. You're 100% right because, you drive up to this place, and it is
But I think
aluminum.
I think the barndominium is representative of the,
let's not spend money on the outside. Let's spend it on the inside.
mindset of the American consumer, right?
Yeah.
I've got one place that's going to hold all my toys, and
I'm gonna live there.
I've got a gun room in the downstairs, and I've got this walkout basement that goes to the pool, and then upstairs I got this living, and it's just all there, and it's just right. And so I don't think. They're
pretty cool.
I don't think that they are necessarily, contributing to the neighborhood, right? I don't think they're communicating.
What neighborhood?
I don't think they're communicating the values of honesty and integrity and things like that when they're clad in metal. And so, but I don't know. I think that barn. The cheap barns they're throwing up all over things are just ugly big buildings that are very functional. Okay,
They're stupid ugly.
And so
they're stupid ugly.
The one that we're building, right? We try to create this whole narrative. We try to create this that there's a time of when each thing was built, right? It ended up being very expensive, right? It's not something people can afford, and so. I'm struggling with it, but I don't think we should be building barndominiums.
No, the whole idea behind the barndominium is completely wrong, right? Well, the whole idea behind it is spend less money on the outside to spend more money on the inside and the things. So,
kind of.
I mean, it is because all you want to do is you're not focused on making the structure beautiful. You're not focused on making anything, but you can make the inside look pretty. And you can beautify it up and it looks cool when there's a metal frame around a bunch of ATVs and a plane.
I think that the thing that's attracted people is that whole idea of living in a almost commercial type building where you have a big sliding door that slides across, and all of a sudden your living room's outside, right? Mm-hmm. That those are kind of cool features that are like. Yeah, this just feels like, gosh, I'm really roughing it, or I'm really, I'm living in another time or place.
Glamping on steroids.
Right. And from that perspective, I can kind of see the appeal. But, I mean, culture and value-wise, they're not their best.
Well, I mean, you're saying culture and value-wise, the question that you ask a lot is, are they going to stand the test of time? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, let's say, we have a lot of things from Pompeii as an example.
Well, I mean, how long is a barn dough going to last, right? Is it a 50-year building?
Is it? No.
Oh, I think the way they build them, they're steel beam, right?
Set into concrete.
Mm-hmm. But I think, that the material will last a long time.
I guess I'm thinking of the aluminum siding in the outside. No.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the trend. I think we should talk about the trend.
Yeah, well, he has a little bit more. It's kind of like what you were saying. The devil's in the details, but it seems like a great way to combine home and shop spaces structurally while limiting costs, which allows for more spending on interior architectural and finishing work. So he's kind of saying like
Yeah.
what your mind was.
Jay and I are on the same page. I've always been like that.
And then he says, yet most all of them are only okay looking outside, and ranch life extremely ugly open concept inside. Not that I want to force a Tudor interior into one, but something with punctuated, purposeful spaces could be made to work. Georgian Palladian, classical thoughts, etc. I'm not seeing Georgian Palladian in a barn though. I'm just not seeing it. But I mean, you could definitely finish it out how you want. But I don't think you walk into this steel building and then there's like Georgian arch, and you know that wouldn't really be
a disconnect.
Well, to his point. You can spend a lot less money on the exterior, spend a lot more money on the interior. What parts of the house typically cost the most? Is the outside of the house the most cost, or is it?
No, I mean, you got a kitchen with appliances or a master bath with all their stuff.
Well, let's take all the
cabinets.
appliance and crap out of the equation and just talk like materials that make the build pretty. So like molding and those kind of things.
I think it's going to be interior finishes.
Interior is going to cost more?
Yeah, because
So you're really not saving that much money but I know you are, because a lot of those barn doors, the videos are like, we spent $20,000 on our house, all in all. And it's like, how? Mm-hmm. And the barndominium is, well, I guess. I did make that number up, but it was one of those things where we were kind of like.
It was a low enough number that made you go, what? So
for all that and an ATV?
He's still on the ATV.
They're fun.
Yeah, no, I think that they're, what we're trying to do when we're doing any houses, we're trying to create a narrative, okay? And to that last point about Georgian, when you walk up to something, when you get inside, you should feel like you're still in the same place. Mm-hmm. And if you walk up to a barn and walk in and all of a sudden you're in a Georgian, living room, I think that's a disconnect. And so I just don't think it works.
I would feel like I'm in a showroom.
Yeah.
Come, this is our metal building. This is where we have all of our, do you want Georgian? It'd be kind of weird. So next question, are there any internship, apprenticeship opportunities coming in the future from Whole Homes or Whole Millwork? So this is a Brent question. Internship, apprentice opportunities.
How good are you?
Yeah. I mean,
oh, really?
It depends on what position you're looking for. We do occasionally take some interns to do stuff. We're big enough that it's not. It depends what you want to learn. If you just want to come and just kind of stand around and look and stuff and be put to work, most likely you're going to be put to work, at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to be, working for others. You're going to be watching and learning and stuff like that. And so those jobs are available as summer internships and things like that as work is available.
I did those.
But we don't really have an internship program, right? Where you come here and for 3 months you'll walk away with X, Y, and Z. We're just not that organized.
What about, he's also asked apprenticeship opportunities. That's, I guess you kind of answered
Same
that.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but I don't want to
officially open it up.
Yeah, and have you think that, if I go through this apprenticeship program at Hull, no. Really, you're just going to be hired on as a, lower thing, and you're going to slowly learn. But it should be better organized.
Well, speaking to my experience working here, whenever I was hired on as Hull, I was a minimum wage worker, and I was cleaning up the shop. So I was sweeping floors, and then I was helping hold cuts together and this bunch of random work. And it's learning by osmosis. Like, I learned how to use a router, but it was because the guy was like, I run 50 of these. And like, okay, yeah. And he taught me how to do it, and I did it. And he went and worked on other things while I was doing that. And then I brought all the 50 routers to me, and he probably had to rerun like 4 or 5 of them. So it was, and I was, barely doing that. But mainly I was just there to clean up the shop, and I was there to...
True apprentice.
Yeah, I guess when I think of like the apprenticeship I had at North Bennett Street, which is the 2-year program set up as an apprenticeship, there was teaching classes and there was things. Hey, here's this. Now we're going to go do this and take your hand plane and do this. And it's not.
You're going to learn on the job.
Yes,
because
real projects.
Totally.
Yes, yeah.
None of the guys who are working for Hull are working there under the mindset of, let me train up this new guy. It's, hey, we've all done that. and now we're working here.
Yeah.
basically.
So I guess I'm answering this way because I would like us to have a training thing like Dan's is talking about, the training that those guys do and stuff like that.
It takes a lot of organization.
Yeah, a lot of organization.
But also, I mean, you guys are saying it takes a lot of organization. It really doesn't take that much organization when you think about it, because Dan has set his company up to run that way. Mm-hmm. Like he started his company with the mindset of, we're going to have older guys who are experienced working with younger guys who are not experienced. And that's how we're starting. So it was almost like he had a guy.
An early core value.
Exactly. And everything just got built up around that, and it's really easy to start implementing systems like, how do we quantify builders? How do we do all this when your whole company is set up? Like, because if you have two guys working together and one guy's like, I should be paid more, you go, well, how do I justify how much you're getting paid? Well, let me just make a quick metric,
Well, it still takes a lot of organization.
I'm not trying to discount Dan's organizational skills or anything like that, but I am saying
It's more organizational skills than I possess.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
But the fact that, but I think if you had made this business to be a training business, to like have guys come up,
maybe, but
it would be different.
He's a very organized, purposeful person.
Yeah.
And I tend to be a little bit more, 30,000 feet instead of,
I'm
in
more
the
with
details.
you.
Yeah, I come by that honest. That's
Yeah, you get that.
yeah.
All right. So program opens up next week. No, I'm just kidding. Liam Connolly. Next question. Any suggestions for sourcing good lumber? I am in Central Florida, but I'd love if you could talk a bit about the market for stuff like 4-quarter, 12-quarter sapele. So I've actually never purchased sapele. The place where I go to up here in North Fort Worth, Plywood Company, they don't carry it, but I have called around and found places to get sapele. But for me with this question, I don't buy a ton of lumber. So I don't know. What do you think about how does someone comes to you and says, how do I find good lumber? I mean, what do you tell them?
Well,
exotics, I guess, too, sapele.
I guess I'm amazed how much good information is available on Google. Mm-hmm. So even when I was trying to find old growth vertical grain fir. Okay. And so, we called to some of our dealers and they're like, yeah, I don't know if I can get that. Yeah, I don't know. I got on Google and there's, 5 guys available that were there. And so it's kind of flipped, at least in my years in business, that, to find old growth longleaf yellow pine used to be, you had to know the right people. And now, Google's algorithms have dropped down far enough that you can actually find these people. I'm usually going into page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
but they're there.
And
so the answer is JFGI.
I don't know what GFGI is.
Just freaking Google it.
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's I think the harder thing is knowing which woods to ask for, right? I think, the fact that he knows about sapele, caboni, akoya, and if he's in Central Florida, the old growth was like longleaf pine and, tidewater red cypress will all perform well there. That those are the things that he's typing into that Google search to find them. And the second difficulty may be that some of those wholesalers won't sell to him retail. Mm-hmm. And so like we deal with a wholesale forest products company that, won't sell to a homeowner. And so, you got to be in the trade. So,
All right. Next question. This is for me. Richard, where do you see yourself in, let's say, 2 to 5 years? Are you still doing YouTube, which I like, or go more towards custom work with Brent? So the short answer is I see myself as, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I think it's good. I see myself doing exactly what I'm doing now. I don't see maybe a little bit more growth or whatever, but I'm happy. That counts for a lot. Yes. I'm making the YouTube videos, which I do enjoy. Mm-hmm. I'm working with Whole, which is awesome opportunities to work on cool projects. And I don't really see what more I would want to give you the short answer. Yeah. I want to make videos. I want to, the thing I do want to progress in is my craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. And I've come a long way even in a year, like a year and a half. I feel like looking back, there's been a lot of progress. So Definitely buying a lot more tools.
Yeah.
I see that coming. And realizing how hard it is to work in a 2-car garage and actually do some cool stuff. It's tough, man. It's tough. So
Yeah.
You build a barndominium, and then you have your shop downstairs. And what?
Pretty cool. Get an ATV.
yeah, guns.
Throw it down. Yeah.
No, but yeah, I kind of see myself where I am, which I know that's kind of a boring answer, but where I am, just more skilled in what I'm doing. Even comes to the videos. I was talking to Austin about how I can get more cinematic shots and, editing stuff, and then also the craftsman side of it. So, yeah.
That's a good answer.
Good answer.
All right. Nathan Miller asks, I want to know if it makes sense to just use a picture molding without any additional pieces of crown. I have a 1924 bungalow with stained gray trim in the living room. There is no crown, but in the attic there is a picture molding that was pulled off at some point. The ceiling height is 8'3" and I'd love to reinstall the picture molding, but not sure it will look good without any other crown pieces. So he's got the picture rail, which is that historic molding where you can hang up pictures. Apparently someone popped it off, shoved it in the attic, and he's asking, can he put this back, and where does he put it? Is it appropriate for him to put that back? What do you think? I mean,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I answered on that thing, but that's what I would do if it was my house, and I think I did a whole video on crown moldings in 8-foot rooms, and most of the times you don't do it, right? Especially after World War II. But in a pre-1940 house, the picture mold really was the molding, especially in our market. It's about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch below the ceiling, and it's running nearly every room. And so, except maybe in a dining room where they might have a timbered ceiling or a beam ceiling, there wasn't the crown, the 3.5 inch 8016 crown or 8012 crown. It just wasn't around then in those early bungalows. And so that's putting crown in every room is a post 1970s thing.
Wow.
okay. So install it. Go ahead and reinstall it and put it
100%.
about 3/4 inch away.
Get it.
All right. Cole Sargent asks, I guess he's asking all of us.
Sergeant.
Salute. Actually, you only salute officers. Did you know that?
Sergeant. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in
unsaluted him.
the Marines. It was a nightmare.
Thanks for your service.
You're welcome. What does your dream home look like? Well, I'll answer first.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I like the Greek revival. Or I'm sorry, the Georgian revival houses. I think those are just so amazing. I like the symmetry of them. I like the fact that they always have like a Palladian window a lot of times, and then the gardens. They're surrounded by gardens. I just love the way those houses look. But I'm also with you from the last episode. It needs to kind of be the right property. It kind of is weird if it's just shoved into some like city block. It still looks great, but for the full effect of it, I feel like it needs to be almost like an estate. That is definitely a dream. I don't think I'll ever get that, but that would be my dream home, like a really well done Georgian revival.
I answered this last one, that Greek revival on the, 7-10 acres kind of thing, or an arts and crafts bungalow kind of thing, in building it, an infill in a city block, sounds pretty good to me.
And you're the Barndo guy.
Yeah, I'd love a barndo. It'd be no. I've always said I really like colonial, but it depends on what I'm doing, and it depends on like where I'm at. Because if I'm on like a huge plot of land, like you're saying, I would love like an English countryside looking house, or like cottage style house. But I think I would like a modest colonial looking house would be my
Nice.
thing. I don't like any of the overly ornate stuff. Like even in, I don't know, sometimes the really, really, really nice houses, like when they've got the intricately carved details and I just think it's a little too much for me.
So you maybe not be a fan of Victorian too much because it's like a little over the top.
I am out on Victorian entirely. It's so much.
Yeah.
I'm into more like if I'm going big, I'd do like Gothic would be more the desire. But no, I like a modest colonial. That's like my favorite.
You wouldn't want Michael Jordan's mansion that's been for sale for like 15 years.
Well, there's a reason it's been for sale for 15 years.
There's like a 23 on the gate when you drive in.
It's
so
terrible.
personalized.
It's so gaudy,
you can't sell it.
Yeah, I couldn't. That's not my cup of tea.
All right, this one is from John Wadines. He says, I live in Las Vegas. Instead of Sin City, it should be called MDF City. We predominantly have the
I think Sin City is appropriately named with
it's
MDF.
very sinful.
Yeah.
We have the prototypical slap together massive square foot for as cheap as possible homes. It is a new city, so I rarely see any homes with any architectural panache. Even the $2 to $3 million homes are just larger versions of production style homes. Basically, I'd love to understand a connection between the old world architecture design and what can be done with these type of homes. And I think you kind of hit on this on your Wednesday videos where you take something that's a little bit, modern, cookie cutter like that last one you did, and you try your best with it. And I think for me, that's the answer. If you have these houses that are built, I mean, you can either knock them down and rebuild, which is not cost effective, not smart. Yeah. So you kind of got to work with what you got. Yeah. So that's my answer kind of on that one.
Yeah, I think that Vegas is a tough place to build because there is no good architectural heritage there, right? That town was, built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? I mean, who was the gangster one? Bugsy Malone or whatever?
I know.
Went out there and basically got the investment happening. That there was free gambling there, and so that happened so late in our architectural history, timeline that there's no. Well, the original Georgian mansion, because if you go to New England, so much of that housing stock is based on those original housing styles. If you come to Fort Worth, Texas, Middle America, so much of our early housing stocks was period revival stuff. Now you see the later housing stock being period revival a little bit. Englishes and French and Mediterranean styles are still predominant here. You go out there.
So you're saying what you're matching to doesn't exist, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's that architectural and heritage that drives new houses today. There isn't one out there, and so you just end up with this kind of desert ugly look. And so it's really difficult to take one of those houses and do one of my Wednesday videos on traditional details. There is no example of traditional details out there. If I was going to try to get something that is to that heritage, it would be, you look at the mission revivals, the missions that, right? The earliest houses and things in Texas were missions, right? Same in California. So the ranch style works out there.
It sounds to me like though there's an opportunity out there to kind of educate people. And what if someone does see a beautiful house and they're like, whoa, you don't see that out here. Who built that? Or, I don't know. It seems like there's an opportunity there.
Open market, baby.
I agree.
I guess my question about it was more, well, I guess it's more for you. It's not about it. Could you build, okay, so you just moved to a place and you've made gambling legal there or whatever. You're building the first house that ever exists in a new place, and it is truly like deserted island. There's been no historic precedent out there before, and you just get to create the architectural style. Do you have an idea of like how you would go about that? You too, because I think architectural styles way better than I do.
if you look at like you would look at natural materials. Okay. So
let's take Nevada. Let's take
Well, is it a desert island like Greece, okay, where you're going to take lava rock because that's what your natural material is, and then you're going to stucco it, and you're going to kind of create an architectural style based on those natural materials? Or are you coming to America where all you have is forests, so you are building in the heritage style of your homeland, but using those natural materials? So depending on where you're going.
Let's just play out the scenario like you're going to Nevada for the first time.
So
and
You're
Bugsy
probably
Jones.
ended up building adobe things like the early Indians did in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
So you would follow with the Adobe style? It'd be an Adobe style house?
I don't know the exact materials that are in. I think sandstone is the natural stone material out there, but it would be something because it's Las Vegas, because it's heat and cold. You'd want to build a house with a thermal massing that's going to be very
So you'd
energy
want to
efficient.
use a lot of stone.
You'd want to use a lot of stone. You'd want to paint them white. You'd want to reflect the sun. You'd want to anyway. But that's where you would start, I think.
What would you do?
Build a barn dog.
I don't know that I would settle in the desert.
Yeah.
I think no.
But you're an architect.
That's
and you've
dodging
been-
your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were just kind of stuck with what you have.
Hmm.
So I would pretty much say the same answer. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much the same. All right.
I'd build a modest colonial style house.
Well, next question, Joshua Bohm. What is everyone's favorite architectural style of a single family home? I think we kind of just said that, but I'll say it again because we want to answer every question. I like the Georgian revivals.
If I wasn't going to build a house, I would probably move into a 1920s-ish period revival house.
What period?
Well, like that I did a video on that house on Pembroke in Fort Worth. There's right next to each other. There's a colonial revival, a period, an English revival, an Italian revival, and
That's cool.
all right there together. So when I say period revival, I mean any of those would be
Okay.
great. Yeah.
I think I would do a.
Barn.
I wish I knew more styles, but I do think I would stick towards like the colonial style.
Yeah.
Though if you gave me a picture book, I'd probably pick something else.
Yeah, if I lived in Larry that was more historic, I'd love to live in like an 1820s federal house or something like that. But we just don't have that housing stock here.
All right. And this one is the last one from here. This is Justin Brownlee. My wife and I are in Fort Worth and are either buying a lot to build new or buying an old home, like 90 years old, given our target neighborhoods. How would you think about this decision, and what are your favorite Fort Worth neighborhoods? Yes.
So
I'll make sure.
I think, like I just said, I like those period revival neighborhoods. So I would be, if I were them, I'd look in Fairmount. I'd look in Forest Park. I'd look in Mistletoe. I'd look in Park Hill. There are a few areas around Arlington Heights, a few areas around TCU. TCU's screwed up because of all the college students and the prices in there and stuff like that. So
The pricing is screwed up, you're saying?
yeah. I mean, if you like the mid-century stuff, I might look over in Ridgely because I think mid-century's kind of cool. And so, but those are the neighborhoods that come to mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. So
Yeah, me too. And what are your thoughts, and we can all answer this, on buying a lot to build new or buying an old home? I guess you kind of got to just look within yourself and see what you really want to do. I think both are exciting. I've done the old home. I'm kind of going through that process right now. There's a lot to repair. There's a lot of things that were done cheaply over the years, and especially on the addition. The addition to that original house is blowing my mind how crappy it was put
that's
together.
usually where you get the
It
most.
was,
Well, I think my thought is I can't afford meat, so I probably wouldn't build new. I would probably try to buy old because I'm going to get a lot more for my money architecturally, and so the problem is I geek out to all these details, and so if I'm going to end up building something, I think I would cost myself out of it. So I'd try to probably get the most house I could, a good historic house.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, he didn't mention a budget, but yeah,
He said no budget. So.
he said money, no object. I'm just kidding. No, he didn't say that. I don't put words into his mouth.
We put his
But-
name out there too. So
No, they're both good ways to go. But I think if you want a more crafted house, it is going to be the buying the older one.
yeah,
You're going to have more architectural detail. So
I'd buy new personally, or buy a lot and build new.
Yeah, it would be fun.
If money's no object, because like you're saying, you can do it all right.
Yeah.
Or close to right, and so you're not dealing with the jackwagons
who've come through the years and done the weird stuff.
Oh yeah.
Jackwagons.
We have is that right? You okay?
I'm good.
Okay. The house that I work out of is bananas.
Like in a good way, bananas? Because bananas can go either way.
It could go either way. It's leaning to the wrong way. It's
the wrong rotten bananas.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of chaos in the piping. It is just, it's a nightmare, but it's a fun one.
It's a fun nightmare. That's funny. So I think that about wraps it up for the questions. That I think we answered all of them. Hopefully I didn't leave anybody out. I think I got everyone though. But another question that we get on multiple of our YouTube videos is, well, you guys are kind of living in a dream world. You talk about all this craftsmanship and that's all fine and dandy, but come on, really, can the average person really do what you're talking about? And basically the question is, can everyone afford craftsmanship? Is it obtainable to the average Joe? And, my answer to it is that there's different levels within craftsmanship. And, speaking on the realm of the world I live in moldings, is like, you can have the cheap builder grade type moldings going into the house, like these new houses are getting, and you could just upgrade those with like a Kuchen or a Windsor. It doesn't change anything about the craftsman doing the work. You're just changing the product, and I feel like you've elevated the craftsmanship of your house, and you haven't necessarily. You paid a little bit more, but it is obtainable. It is affordable. Like I did this comparison of a Windsor board compared to a board from Lowe's, a 1x any of them, 1x4, 6. They were all, the Windsor ones were all 14 cents more. That's it. And I bring this up all the time because I'm like, guys, it's what we're asking is not to build some like mega mansion or some like Greek temple. Mm-hmm. We're just asking to think about like, we're trying to provoke you to think about like, how can I execute this in a way that is crafted within my budget, layouts, stuff like that. So can everyone afford it? Yes and no. Because as you go up in those levels, I'm talking just changing out a molding. Well, then you got like Vasil's carvings and everything in between that. Yeah. I can't afford Vasil's carvings. Yeah. So that would be awesome, but great. I've never got a quote because I was
pretty
told
sure
if you have to
ask,
that you can't afford it. But no, but but that's the question. What do you say to these people?
I'll also say this because I a proud member of this podcast, have told my friends about this and said it's kind of interesting because one of the claims that we have made and we make quite proudly is that you can do things right for sometimes even less money than doing things not right. And we were doing the new urbanism thing, and I think a point got brought up where it was like, well, yeah, but it's going to cost you way more. It's just not feasible. You can't do it like that. You can't do it right for new urbanism. And I was like, hold on. Am I having a stroke here? Or like, what just happened?
Wait. This is a conversation you're having with your buddies?
No, I have the conversation often that you can do things right for sometimes less money than doing things unright.
Okay, I'm not following. You're feeling gaslit by who?
You
Us.
Guys.
Okay, so on the podcast when we say this, you're feeling you said you're talking to your friends.
Well, no, I do talk to my friends about the podcast. I'm like, this is happening and we can do it and they're saying you could do it cheaper than whatever.
These guys.
Yeah, y'all are saying. And I'm like, yeah, they're saying that. And then y'all are like, yeah, of course we can do it cheaper, it's better. And then I talk to my friends, they're like, there's no way. That just can't happen. And I'm like, am I wrong? And I'm confused. So there are times where I feel like I'm like, is it possible? And it just seems like the knowledge base in the world is so low on the fact that like this is possible. It is possible to build things the right way, do things quote unquote correctly.
I think it is because if you can do something cheaper and make it look right. For example, the good example is all the roof lines on houses today.
Yeah.
If you just make it not as flashy and trying to get all this curb appeal with all these gable ends, could just make like a flat roof. That's going to be cheaper, but people think, not a flat roof, but just not as many ridge lines.
Right.
It's not going to be as eye-popping to the consumer. So that's one example.
Yeah.
That's a great example. And I think there are, probably 15 or 20 examples like you're just two, okay, between Windsor and the roof lines that if you took them out of kind of new production building, you could build it cheaper, okay?
I think better.
Yeah.
So you'd be cheaper and better.
Yeah. I think a production builder would look at you and go, yeah, well, 14 cents added up over, 35 boards is, 27.50. And whatever.
And my argument would be, come on, man. Look at this thing.
But I mean, if it costs more, it does cost more. Okay.
Yeah.
It would be their point. And so what I would push back is like, look, I don't want it to be, and you hear me say this, I don't want it to be just a conversation about cost, right? I want it to be a conversation about longevity too, because you can build a deck off the back of your porch, okay, for, $8,000, okay? Now, if you were going to do it in stone with a stone patio and a concrete base, it would be, $25,000. So yeah, it's a lot more, but in 10 years, that deck is going to start needing to be repaired, start needing to be, touched up. And in 15 years, you're going to start replacing boards. And in 20 years, you're going to have to probably replace the whole thing. Okay. So it's a 20-year product. The stone patio done properly, done thing is going to be there for 100 years, 75 years, 50, whatever. But in 3 cycles, right, you've now, got something that's much more longer lasting and everything else.
Right.
Now,
and essentially cheaper.
It costs more, okay, but the value of it is more too. And the resale value of putting that thing on the market, you're going to return more money for that, properly done stone patio than the wood deck. And so, again, I don't want it to be a simple look, to put this board up is less than, I'm not saying that it's going to be less. I'm saying that the long-term value of it is more, okay, and does cost less. And so, that's where I would push back and say, look, let's change the conversation to, I don't know, watches, right? I can spend, $250 for this, but I'm already ready to throw it away, right? And, I know Rolexes right now, they're buying them from 1965, the birth year. Parents are giving them to their kids for graduation, the birth year of the watch, the Rolex watch. So there's a watch that's, 60 years old, and I would go through, 30 of these watches before I have that. Now, a Rolex costs more than a Timex, right? But it's, there's value in it. And also the other fact is that today you can buy that Rolex watch and it costs more than when you bought it new in 65. So, those things go for $10,000 right now, right? So I'm not saying everybody can afford Rolexes and just buy Rolex. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that, it is an example of, this conversation that everybody wants to say, no way you can do that. Well, wait a minute. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? Because as a value thing, there's no doubt about it that craftsmanship pays, right? That craftsmanship is worth it. As a total costing, if you only want to break this conversation down just to cost, yes, craftsmanship costs more.
Well,
if you're just looking at it on paper.
Right.
Pause, because craftsmanship costs more in a 10-year period, but in a 50-year period, craftsmen cost less, correct?
Well, I would say in a 1-year period, it costs more. In a 10-year period, it costs less.
Okay. And the reason that we're saying that, we're obviously, Ramaz here is just understanding, but the reason that we're saying that is because you will have to buy the same product 10 times.
Basically, when we work for large commercial institutions, especially historic institutions, they do not look at. They'll have a. I remember LSU was doing this program, and they were re-roofing, and they've got all of these red Ludovici tile buildings, okay, and they were doing the cost value analysis on the roofs, okay, and they did not look at. If they said building A needs to be re-roofed, okay, and they solicit 3 bids, and so one bid isn't for Ludovici roof piles; it's for going back with metal, and another one's going back, with a concrete clay tile. They do not look at that thing like there's the bids, let's just pick the best price. They always look at it over a 100-year period, okay? And so then they do this life cycle analysis that. The actual life cycle of that roof over a 100-year period is actually only costing us $1,500 a year, where this other one's going to cost us $3,500 a year. Yeah. So all of a sudden, this is not a this price on the invoice sheet. It is a price over a lifetime of things. So going back to my deck analogy, the annualized cost of that deck is actually much less than the wood deck. The concrete patio versus the wood deck, and I would say it costs less. That's where you could push back and say craftsmanship costs less.
It's an investment. It seems like you're kind of putting more money aside up front and kind of getting some back because you're not.
And that's the value that Americans aren't good at, right? That's the thing. The waiting, right? The saving up.
What is that?
Yeah, the saving up so that you can afford it later, right? Isn't really a value that we, it's credit cards. Let's put it on the credit card. I want it now.
And you see that bottom line. Oh, this one's cheaper. That's less on my card now.
And obviously that's what we're fighting against. But I don't know if maybe we haven't done the best job of explaining that to people.
No, we've explained it. No, they're not understanding.
It's like, maybe I haven't been paying attention. But no, I think maybe there's something to that, to where and I don't know if we have done a bad job of that or anything. But I will say that is the number one pushback that I hear is, well, it does cost more. Like you're not. It's not cheaper.
And look, okay, here's the other thing I'd say.
I know you hate the conversation about cost because it's.
But here's the thing I would say.
The artist
is
over
that when Gwen Hefner, I helped this lady in Kansas City, the Makerista. Okay, she's got a huge following on Instagram, and she's great. She's talented. She's.
You sure you want to call her out?
No, but our conversation, and I told her very early on, I said, Gwen, you've got to fight for these details. And I was talking to her about stairs. And she goes, the code enforcement guy, my builder says I can't do this. This person says I can't do this. I said, they're lying to you, okay? You can do this, okay?
Not intentionally, but they are.
Maybe
some of them were intentionally. Some of them were intentional. And I was just like, look, I'm just telling you, okay? You can do this the right way.
Ready to take that away from me?
You can do this, but it is a fight, okay? You got to fight the code enforcement guy. You got to fight your builder. You got to fight the
What is their incentive to cut this cost down?
There's
speed.
Not only speed, but also code. Well, code won't let you do that.
Why would code get in the way? That seems like a crazy one for him to have a dog in this fight.
Just trust me.
He does.
I don't want to get into the long conversation about this stair thing. It was just.
This is important.
It was an example of, and my point is that we as craftsmen and as builders and as homeowners, whoever's listening out there that wants to, build better, it's a fight. It is a fight to, because everybody's going to be pushing back to you. Just like they push back on us that, well, no one can afford that, right? And you guys are in a dream world. Wait, okay, we've carefully explained 3 or 4 examples of okay, yes, that might cost more, but it's going to be better. And we're talking about value in different places. And so we are so Walmartized in our world by, cost that we assume everything should be judged by the value of cost. And a part of our pushback is, no, it's not about cost all the time.
Well, I think a better way of saying that is it's not just about cost.
No, I said it right.
All right. Well, the other I guess the question that is burning in my mind now is, when is it okay to worry about cost? Like, when's the moment where you're like, yeah, you know what? It's not worth it for craftsmanship in this area because.
What'd you say?
Do I not have enough passion?
No, I mean, everybody has a budget.
Okay,
And
yeah.
everybody has to live within that budget. And I think our push is to say, whatever your budget is, find the best things you can do within that budget. Maybe cough up the extra 14 cents a board, to have this lasting impact.
I agree. And I think that, I had a client tell us one time, there will be no budget on this job. Okay. Really? 4 years later, okay, we've hit our budget limit. We are done. Okay. We need to finish this job up.
Sorry, I'm laughing at 4 years later.
Yeah. And he basically said, we started out.
I don't speak Roman.
We started out, where we wanted one of everything. And he goes, we're done with that. And he goes, and look, to the point is, everybody has a budget.
He said,
now
we
that
want one
is
of
kind
everything?
of,
yeah, that's how they started out.
Give me one of everything.
Yeah,
I'll take the lot.
or like one of a kind, right? Like everything custom. Is that kind of what he meant?
Yes, that's what he meant.
Okay.
And so
that was living in a dream world, but that eventually came to an end.
it did. And to your point, everybody has. So your question of, when do you whether you're building a $350,000 house or a $3 million house, there's budget ranges, and so the secret sauce, right, is figuring out on that $350,000 house where you're going to spend money and where you're not. And on that $3.5 million house, where you're going to spend money and where you're not. Because there are many wasteful things that they're spending money on, ridge lines on the roofs and all the goofy bumps and bruises that are in some of these houses that would be much simpler and easier to build and less expensive. That's where, you save money, but there are going to be places where you're going to want to spend money. And look, in my mind, that ends up being the personal whim of the homeowner and what they want.
So save money on the things that don't bring value to you, and then spend money on the things that do.
I think so. I mean, you want an ATV apparently in your
Like a
barn
jet ski for the
dominium.
land, yeah.
Yeah. That's what you would spend money on, right?
I'd like the gun wall first, but then, yeah.
Okay.
So you're getting the metal siding. That's what we're saying.
I say all that, but then at the same time, I can't envision myself driving up to a metal barn every day.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing's for sure, it would encourage me to stay inside.
So you wouldn't be on the ATV, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wouldn't be on the ATV.
You could ride it inside.
Have enough room. Well, okay, Austin just brought up the point that there were two houses that y'all were looking at when y'all were kind of evaluating the quality of real estate of a bunch of different houses. And he said one was $900,000 and one was $1.3 million. And the $900,000 one was better built than the $1.3 million house.
Yeah. So Austin and his other, business shoots real estate videos for a real estate company, and they, we went and looked at a $900,000 house, was built in the 20s, which was awesome, right? And then he shows me a video of a $1.3 million house built 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it was a piece of junk. And so, it was, then you look at it and go, wow, craftsmanship really does pay, right? Because, now you're looking at two different houses. One's even more expensive, but if you were going to compare the two, you would, it was night and day. And so, there's a stark, and maybe if we just kind of summarize, just say, look, the entry-level house in 1920, okay, compared to the entry-level house in 2020 is overwhelming. It's overwhelming if you just look at those two house styles.
The other piece of this puzzle that's just super fascinating is the real estate market has missed the valuation of these two things. You know what I mean? Like the real estate market has missed the value $1.3 million.
And that's it. Totally, they have, and that's what makes it so hard. That's what you've got to fight for. That's
well,
and the banks have done that, and the builders have done that, and then your neighbors have done that, and so
But there's something to be said about the gems that people don't know are gems.
True. Yeah. Because when you evaluate real estate, you're looking at square foot, pool,
right.
bedrooms. You're not looking at the mantle.
Well, I guess
you're
that's a good
not
question.
even considering it on at least the realtor's like paperwork. They're not. Oh, and it has this mantle.
So it's not like it's a 1-to-1 comparison. That's what I was saying, that people weren't understanding the cost of the nicer house. But that makes sense. That makes more sense.
Yeah, because it's only sold off square foot.
Because they're selling off
that's
square
like
footage.
what they do.
Yeah,
realtors. They're not going to include craftsmanship in their like maybe a little bit, but not to the degree that we're talking about.
Well, and only when it helps them, right? Only when it helps them sell an older house that's really built well. They go, oh my gosh, the craftsmanship.
Yeah,
but they don't look at that $1.3 million house and go, oh, the craftsmanship. They go, it's very practical. Okay.
Well, they say it's big.
The closets are huge.
Yeah.
Right. They say, they're talking about the functional things. And when they see the older houses that are really well constructed and beautifully crafted,
hey,
they bring it up.
The argument could be brought up about us saying that we don't focus on the functionality things unless it helps us. Right. Well, you're not talking.
You could.
How am I going to fit all my clothes in that closet? How am I going to,
No, we run into that. I mean, there is, when we try to talk them out of the bigger bathrooms and the more for more, just like, you're having that conversation. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
Because people end up valuing the other things more than they do square footage.
It just depends with each client. It seems like everyone's different.
There's no rule. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. That is our last question. We're all good?
Yes, that was the last question.
You know,
and that one has been
tangent
asked
on
by multiple people.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And push back on that. Like, we would love to hear the pushback, and, if you're feeling gaslit like I was, ask the questions and let's get them answered and figured out. That was a Canadian accent for those of you in the Great White North. Thanks for watching this episode of Passion for Craft Podcast. Feel free to follow us on Patreon or jump into our Discord, where we would love to continue the conversation with you there.